Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I'm the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. Today's webinar is a special webinar that we do right around the leadership team changeover time, and this is for the leadership team tools and reports. What we're going to be talking about today is all of the different functions that most leadership teams do in BNI Connect on a day-to-day basis or a week-to-week basis with your chapters. A couple of housekeeping things about today's webinar. Today's webinar is being recorded, so if you need to go back and review this later, or if there's one of your fellow chapter members or leadership team members that wasn't able to attend today, you will be able to steer them in the right direction. That being said, it is a live webinar, so if you would like to ask questions, please do ask questions as we're going through. The best way to do that is by typing your question into the questions panel. I'll see that pop up on my screen, and I can answer the question right then and there if it's pertaining to exactly what we're covering, or if it's something that we haven't covered yet or unrelated, we can do that at the end. This webinar is scheduled for about 30 to 45 minutes worth of actual content. I like to make sure that everybody can get back to their busy days in a reasonable time frame. That being said, I am happy to stay on these calls as long as needed. As the Director of Support, this is what I do all day, every day. I answer questions, and I'd be happy to stay here until every single one of your questions are answered. A couple of other things, not all functions will be available to all people. So as I'm going through the various things today, if you're not yet in your role, for example, many of you will be changing over into your role tomorrow, you may not see the options that I am showing you on the screen quite yet. That won't happen until you become the membership coordinator, you become the visitor host, or whatever other position you might take. The other thing is that I'm going to be showing them all of these different functions in more of a generic fashion. That being said, in some areas, especially here in the United States, the vice president / membership coordinator is the person that enters the POMS report into the system. And in some areas, they've delegated that task to other people in the chapter. But I still think it's important for everybody to know how to do a lot of these tasks, especially because anybody on the leadership team by default has permissions to go in and enter a POMS report, for example. So if your membership coordinator is not available for a couple of weeks, they're on holiday or something like that, you can always step in and be able to help out with that. Or if the secretary-treasurer isn't around and the speaker rotation wasn't updated, then the president or the chapter director can jump in and help out with that. So I'm going to show a lot of different functions without necessarily saying it's always this person that does that or always a different person that does that. So that being said, please check with your chapter director consultant or executive director if you have any questions on more of the procedural, who's responsible for this, who's responsible for that, who should be doing that, who should be doing this. Please check with your director consultant or executive director. All right, so a couple of things. Here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover how to enter and manage visitors in the system. I'm going to show you guys how you can easily get an email list to be able to email your chapters, how to enter a POMS report, how to enter the speaker rotation, how to use the mentor and mentees. We're going to skip over the applications for today and hopefully have some time to go in and look at some of the membership dues reports, the chapter roster, and some of the other reports that you might find useful in the system. So hopefully everybody's ready to go, and let's start taking a look. So obviously this is when you first log into BNI Connect, this is what you see. A lot of people are still coming up to speed on the online slips. I'd just like to very quickly explain a few things about the online slips. So the online slips are pretty easy. The first thing you can do is when you log into BNI Connect, you just click on one of the slip types here. So let's say I want to submit a referral slip. I can submit a referral slip, choose somebody from my chapter, type in the details of the referral, telephone number, email address, any comments, rate the referral, and click submit. Oh, forgot to choose given your card. And now the person has been sent a referral. From a leadership team standpoint, a couple of things that you need to know about the online slips. When I submit a referral as a member, I can now track the details of those referrals, the thank you for closed business, the one-to-ones, by using my various reports. And I'll know that it is submitted properly because I can go and review my referral slip, and I can see the referral slip in the list. And here's the one I just sent to James Lawrence, Scott Smith. I can also see that this referral slip is still in a draft status. And what that means is that the POMS report hasn't officially been submitted for the week. So it keeps all of these slips in queue for the upcoming meeting. So I have a slip here that I sent today that's waiting in draft status. After the slip has been, the POMS report has been done after your meeting has taken place. For example, if I go back and look at an earlier date range, I should have some older slips in here that are now shown as completed. So all of these have been completed and these are in draft. The other thing to note about this is that there's a report for members up at the top here that shows their stats for the last 12 months in the lifetime. Until the report is submitted, these numbers don't change. So the ones that are in draft form aren't showing up here on the top yet. The added benefit to you on the leadership team of people submitting the slips online is that if you are the person responsible for entering POMS reports on a weekly basis, this makes your life so much easier. Essentially, if all of your chapter are submitting their own slips here, then all you have to do is take attendance because all of these slips are waiting for you in the POMS report already. So let's take a look. If I was to enter a POMS report, where would I go and how would I do that? Now, a lot of people say, you know what, BNI Connect is so confusing. I never know where to go to do things. Well, let me give you a couple of hints that I often use. To get to most of these functions, you're going to go to these top-level menus up here. You have Network, Operations, Reports, Tools, and Admin. Most of you are only going to see the Network, Operations, and Reports. Now, Network is where all the social media stuff is. That's kind of the LinkedIn side of BNI Connect. It's where we could go to participate in the discussion groups and manage our connections, which is our BNI address book. We can do testimonials, and there's even a picture sharing gallery. Now, Operations is where we're going to do all of the input. That's the day-to-day operations of BNI. Reports is where we get all the information back out of BNI Connect. So essentially, if we want to do input, like we want to be inputting a POMS report, we want to be emailing our chapter, we want to send a visitor invitation, we want to do something in the system, we're going to go to Operations. So let's say that I wanted to enter a POMS report. I'm going to go to Operations, and I'm going to do that at the chapter level. I'm just going to switch my chapter here so I'm in the right place. Now you'll see here the menu is broken into a bunch of different things. We have Manage Visitor, which is the whole visitor process in BNI Connect. We have Meeting Management, which is going to be the week-to-week management of the meetings. So that's where we would enter POMS and view speakers. We have Manage Memberships, which I don't believe that you guys use over in the UK, so I'm going to skip over that for now. We also have a goals program in BNI Connect where you can manage goals as a leadership team. We have the mentoring program, and we have some email options as well. So if I'm going to be entering a weekly POMS report, the place that I'm going to go to is a meeting management, and I need to enter a POMS report. So the first thing I need to do is choose what the date of the meeting is. So let's say that I'm going to be entering the meeting for last week, which is the 25th, and I click on Enter POMS. What I see here is a list of all of the people in my chapter and essentially a big spreadsheet. If there were any slips that were passed in for last week's meeting, they would automatically appear in this list. I'd see that if I clicked on the slips audit report to see all of the slips. Now maybe it's better if I show you an example of what a chapter that is using the online slips, what it looks like when you first go in as a vice president. So I'm actually going to switch over to the live system here for a minute and go to my own chapter. I am a member here in the state of Rhode Island here in the United States. And let me switch over. So if I was the membership coordinator for my chapter, I would go in, I'd go to Operations Chapter, I'd go to Meeting Management, enter POMS report. The first thing I'm seeing is any visitors that were entered in the last week, which I do need to approve. And then let's take a look at the POMS report for this coming meeting. And what we should see is in my chapter there's already a bunch of information entered for the upcoming meeting. And these are essentially all of the slips that were passed already during the week. And again, I can click on the slips audit report and see all of the activity that's happened so far this week. All of the one-to-ones, all of the referrals, the thank you for closed business, etc. All right, so we had a question from Darren. Would you mind clarifying RGO, RGI, RRI? All right, excellent. So POMS, let me go through the whole list here. POMS obviously stands for present, absent, late, medical, and substitute. So that's the different types of attendance. So as you're going through doing the POMS report, you would choose, mark people absent or late or medical, the substitutes. RGI and RGO. So RG stands for referrals given, and you can see if I hover over, it would show that. Inside versus outside. An inside referral is when two people in the chapter do business with one another. So for example, Darren, if you and I are in the same chapter and I utilize your services, that would be an inside referral. So it's me referring myself to you, another member of the chapter. An outside referral is when I reach into my network and introduce you to somebody. So now it's gone outside the chapter. So it could be my friend, it could be a colleague, it could be my mother, it could be somebody that I've met through a networking connection or an existing client. Basically anybody other than me doing business with you. And it's the same thing on the RRI and the RRO. That's referrals received inside, referrals received outside. There's always two sides to a referral, the person that gave the referral and the person that received the referral. So, for example, if I had a referral, if I referred myself to James Lawrence, who's a solicitor lawyer in my chapter, that would be a referral received inside for Jim Lawrence and a referral given inside for me. Does that make sense, Darren? Does that help? Now, if I referred my uncle to Jack Bauer, then that would be a referral received outside to Jack and a referral given outside for me. All right, so V is for visitors. One-to-ones is a one-to-one. And just like with referrals given and received, there's two sides to a one-to-one. So if I had a one-to-one with Christy Armstrong, I would give a 1 in her column and a 1 in my column. And then the thank you for closed business. And finally, the CEUs. CEUs we use here in the United States. I know that you guys don't use those in the UK. So this is, I believe, testimonials in the UK. Now, when you're doing this, when people are passing paper, this takes quite a bit of time because you have to come back to your office, you sort out all the pieces of paper, and then you have to go through this list, scroll up, scroll down, scroll up, scroll down, until you have entered all the information. And again, if they're recording these online, all of that information is entered for you already, and all you would have to do at that point is take attendance for the meeting. And again, you can always click on the slips audit report to do any type of auditing. If you'd like to have a little worksheet, as opposed to doing this all online, you can print out a POMS sheet if you would like to. And all this does is print out a copy of this, so it has the current membership and all of the columns. You can use this for taking attendance at the meeting, as well as if you want to keep track of all of that information while it's happening. When you are done, you can put any remarks about the meeting if you need to. You would then submit POMS. If you need to come back and make some changes later, you can click Save Draft. Now, Marcus Holiday, what Marcus Holiday does is it essentially takes this meeting and closes that meeting down so that it's not counted statistically. For example, if you don't meet on Christmas or Boxing Day or New Year's, whatever week that is, marking as holiday would take all the online slips, pass them to the next meeting, and then take this meeting and just close it down, saying that it never happened. Now, that is important for things like traffic lights because it kind of takes it out of the mixture. So a lot of the statistics and traffic lights and things are done on a per meeting basis, and marking it as a holiday does take it out of the mix there. I'm going to go ahead and submit this POMS. And now this POMS is in the system. I do get a quick review of it. If I need to make any changes, I could then unlock the POMS and go back in and edit them. Now, let's say that a couple of weeks goes by and a member comes back to you and say, hey, you marked me as absent a couple of weeks ago, but I was there at the meeting. You can verify that information, and if you need to make a correction to a POMS report, the way to do that is to go back to meeting management. What we want to do instead is click on View POMS. We can choose a date to start looking at the POMS, and you can go back as far as needed. And let's say that I need to make a change to the meeting on August 28th. I click the word completed. And I can see that there was an error on here. This person, Matt Wall, was not actually present that day, so let me go in and change that. I'm going to click Unlock POMS. And I can go ahead, make the change for Matthew Wall, mark him as absent, and I can go ahead and click Submit. And that recloses the report. Matt, I do see your question. I'll come to that in just a minute, if that's okay. Dan says, how did you print a blank copy of the POMS? So printing a blank copy of the POMS, what you do is you go back to, you would have to choose the week which you want to print it for, is what it comes down to. So I go to meeting management, and let's say it was for my meeting this coming week, and I would like to print a POMS report before the meeting. I would go to Enter POMS for this upcoming meeting, which is the October 2nd. And even though I'm not going to enter any POMS right now, I'm going to go ahead and click on Print POMS Sheet. And this will, again, print out a nice blank sheet for me that I can take to the meeting. Switch it to landscape, and it'll be a little bit bigger here. I can take that with me to the meeting to keep notes. The reason that you have to go into that meeting is because it has to pull the roster for that particular meeting based on the membership. So, does that answer your question, Dan? So Kate says in our region, the membership coordinator would need to ask our regional admin to unlock the POMS. I apologize for that. So yes, if you do need to unlock the POMS, you do need to speak with your regional admin, and they can unlock it for you before you can go back and make those changes. So that goes back to my beginning. Some things happen differently in different areas. All right, any other questions on entering POMS reports? All right, while we're in the meeting management here, let's take a quick look at the speaker rotation. So you can also enter the speaker rotation in BNI Connect. Now, just like keeping the record on paper, I recommend only doing 1 to 2 months of the speaker rotation in here, but you can go ahead and enter them. And we do that quite simply by going to Meeting Management, View Edit Speakers. Now we can choose a date range to see who's already scheduled to speak. There's nobody upcoming right now. Now if I want to assign a speaker, I would just click the Assign Speaker button. I choose what date they're going to be speaking. I can only choose future dates. So let's say on the 2nd, next week, I'm going to be speaking, and I enter a topic in. And I click Submit. Now, once that is done, one of the great things, there are a couple of reasons why you might want to enter speakers into BNI Connect. The first of which is I will get an email reminder. I'll actually get 2 email reminders, 6 days before the meeting and 3 days before the meeting saying, by the way, you're the scheduled speaker this week. Remember to bring a door prize. The Secretary-Treasurer also gets a reminder about who the upcoming speaker is so that they can make sure they remind them for their bio and things like that. The second reason is that these will appear on your chapter websites. So for example, if I go to my chapter website, bniri.com/Wakefield, you can see all of the upcoming speakers for my chapter for the next 6 weeks, or the next 4 weeks. This is just a little extra exposure on Google as well, because the Google spiders are indexing all of these websites. If you do need to change the speaker rotation, unfortunately we can edit, but all we can edit is the speaker comments, and it's because of the scheduling of the emails. So if you do need to change a speaker, you do have to delete them and then add a new speaker in by assigning a new speaker. And that's how to enter a speaker into BNI Connect. Any questions on that? All right, going back to operations. All right, so now I think, Matt, I'm going to be hitting up on one of your questions here. Let's talk about visitors. Now, there's a couple of different processes with visitors. There's things that can happen with visitors before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. One of the things that I find that's very helpful is to make sure that you're pre-registering visitors before a meeting. And that can be done in a couple of different ways. That can be done either by the members or the visitors themselves. Now, members can register visitors. Let's say that they're out networking and they meet somebody that wants to come and visit your chapter. They can go ahead and pre-register a visitor for your upcoming chapter meeting. And they do this, and anybody can do this, by going to Manage Visitor and register a prospective visitor. What this does is it sets them up to visit an upcoming chapter meeting. So let's say that I have somebody that wants to come to the meeting. I can go through this form very quickly. I can only choose future meetings. So say they're going to be coming, they said they wanted to come on the 9th. I put their name in. Any other details I might have. Phone number, email address. Now what this does is this also starts an automated email process. Once I register somebody for an upcoming meeting, this person, John Smith, will get an email sent to them confirming their registration for that upcoming meeting. They'll also get a reminder 2 days before the meeting letting them know that there, and here's the notification I just received. So I'm confirmed to visit the BNI Wakefield chapter. I'll get a very similar reminder 2 days before the meeting. And Matt, here's your point. It does also send that same, very similar email to the leadership team of the chapter, the president, the vice president, the secretary treasurer, or the chapter director, the membership coordinator, and the secretary, also to the director consultant, as well as all of the visitor hosts, letting them know that a visitor is upcoming. Now, Matt, to answer your question, you are correct. In that email, it does not say who invited them, unfortunately, but you can find this information out in BNI Connect. Once a visitor is registered, you can also go in and register manage the registered visitors. And here's where one of the places where it will show who invited them. So we have John Smith here. If I click on Edit, I can see all the information about this visitor. This is also where if this visitor then came to me and said, you know what, I can't make it on the 9th, I need to change my registration, I could change my registration to a different week, let's say the 16th, and they will get a new confirmation about that visit. Now that's before a meeting. After a meeting, we want to make sure that we're recording all of the people that came to our chapter. And the reason for that is that essentially we are creating a visitors database for our chapter that we can go back to, we can follow up with them, we can convert them to members at a later date. What we want to do is first make sure that we're marking as attended anybody that might have come to the meeting that was pre-registered. So we do that, again, by going to Manage Registered Visitors. We can search for anybody that was registered, and I can see that we do have somebody registered. I'm going to go ahead and click on Edit, and now I can just click on Visitor Attended. Now from a visitor host perspective, if you're the person that's normally entering visitors into BNI Connect, this makes your job a lot easier if your members are registering the visitors or if the visitors are registering themselves through your regional website. Because now I just need to mark visitors attended. I can then choose whether or not this visitor gets added to the POMS report. Now there's a couple of reasons why you may not want to record that visitor into the POMS. One might be that if it wasn't a qualified visitor, for example, the visitors in the POMS directly affects your conversion ratio when it comes to traffic lights, because the conversion ratio is simply the number of visitors that are in the POMS report divided by the number of new members that you have had in the chapter in that same period of time. So putting people that might be, let's say, substitutes or guests or members of other chapters, people that are not eligible to join, putting those people into the POMS report lowers your conversion ratio. So in those cases, you may want to choose to not add the visitor to the POMS. Now, the person that's entering the POMS report will have a final say on whether the person gets entered, but this makes the first decision. So we can see that it was recorded as invited by Jeremy Walsh. We can confirm that, making sure that that's the person that would get the credit in the POMS report. We can just verify the rest of the information. And finally, we have a choice whether or not to send the follow-up email. So some reasons why you may not want to send the follow-up email. Let's say that you're doing data entry way past when the person visited. Let's say it's months or weeks after the person visited. It might actually be embarrassing to send a thank you for visiting our chapter 2 or 3 weeks after they visited. So you may want to uncheck that in that case. Otherwise, keep that checked and it'll send them a thank you for visiting email. I can go ahead and click submit, and now this person has been registered as visiting the chapter. They will now be taken out of our prospective visitors and put into our chapter visitors database. Now if you've checked here and the person that came to the meeting did not pre-register, you can just go ahead and click the Add Visitor button. And essentially, this is just adding a brand new visitor to the chapter. All right, any questions on visitors? And Matt, does that answer your question? Haiti, I'm going to tackle your question at the end, if that's okay. All right, excellent. So the next thing I wanted to show you is if you're using the mentoring program, it's very easy to assign a mentor and a mentee. Now, the purpose of the mentoring program is that it helps a new member get started off on the right foot. And they do that by having basically a number of one-to-ones. Depending on your region, it could be anywhere from 4 weeks to 8 weeks to 12 weeks. But having a number of one-to-ones with this seasoned members to talk about BNI and learn the ins and outs and what new members should do right away. We do this through a series of emails, and the mentor coordinator in the chapter would pair 2 people up, assign them in the system, and then these 2 people would get weekly emails letting them know what they should be working on week after week after week. To do this in BNI Connect, it's very straightforward. We just click on Mentoring Program, and we can assign a mentor and a mentee. Now, we're going to choose a start date. The date does have to be in the future, but this is essentially going to be when do you want them to start getting the emails. You may want to do this for usually the day after the meeting or something like that. That gives them the time to schedule the one-to-one for the week. But this is essentially the days that they're going to start getting it. So if I'd like the emails to be coming on Thursdays, I could set that as the start date. I then set the mentor as well as the mentee and click Submit. And that's essentially all there is to setting up a mentor and a mentee in BNI Connect. If I'd like to view the current list of mentors and mentees, I can do a quick search here over a period of time, and I can see that for my chapter, we have a mentor and a mentee starting on 10/2 or October 2nd. We do our dates backwards here in the United States. If I need to change the assignment, I can do that, and if I need to cancel the mentoring, I can do that as well. Now, the actual emails that are sent out are going to vary region by region because each region does make their own set of emails for this. But just to give you an idea of what it is, for example, here in our region, the emails that we get, so the first week, for example, we would get an email that says, "Welcome to week 1 of the mentoring program. Here's some information about the mentoring program. Here's what we do." And they also get an attachment telling them all about member success, the advanced workshops, and things like that. First 10 things to do as a member, etc. All right, we have a question here. Haiti says, can you show these details in a report? So there is not a specific report for the mentoring program. It is simply here in this list. I mean, if you have a bunch of people here, I mean, you can just quickly copy and paste these and drop them into an Excel spreadsheet if you need to, but there is not a report for the mentoring program, unfortunately. All right, going back to operations here, a couple more things to show you here, and this is under the Create Email category. As a person on the leadership team, you'll probably on occasion have to get a message out to your entire membership, to all the people that are in your chapter. Very easy to do using the Create Email. Now, before BNI Connect, when I was on the leadership team, if I wanted to send a message to all of the members of my chapter, usually what I had to do was go back to the last email that was sent and hit reply all and hope that it went to everybody, or try to keep my own lists of all the email addresses. What this does is it gives you a very quick email list for your whole chapter in one click. So this is on the test system, so where all the emails are scrambled, but all I need to do is highlight all the emails, click copy, and then I happen to use Outlook, so I would just open up my Outlook. I choose to put everybody in the BCC line, generally speaking, and I type out my email and click send. And that's it. Now I know that all of the new members that are in the chapter, I have their email addresses, as well as anybody who's left the chapter, their email addresses would no longer be in this list. So it's not actually creating the email in BNI Connect. Again, it's just giving you quick access to get all of the email addresses for your chapter. All right, so that's all of the operations I was going to show you today. Any questions on any of the data input or anything in BNI Connect? If you'd like to learn more about keeping some goals for your chapter, we do have a separate webinar for that. Reg says, regarding the POMs, could you please explain RGI, RGO, RRI, and RRO again? Absolutely. So let me do that. Let me show you the report, some of the output reports, and I'll explain that when we get to that report, if that's okay. So if I want to now get some information about my chapter and about what we're doing, I would do that in reports. So I'm going to switch back to the live system here and go to reports, chapter. And as you can see, there are a ton of different reports, all with various functions. One of the places that you're probably going to be spending a lot of time, especially if you are a, let's say, a chapter membership coordinator, is in the Summary POMs report. The Summary POMs report really is the statistical bread and butter report for your chapter. So the first thing you do is you can set a date range. By default, it's going to choose the last 6 months worth of data for you, but you can change this to anything you'd like to. If you'd like to go back 10 years and look at the data, you are more than welcome to. The next choice you have to make is whether or not you want to include the dropped members. Now the totals are always going to show the totals for the chapter, even including the dropped members. This is whether or not you'd like everybody listed or just the current members listed. I'm going to leave the dropped members out of it for now. And this now shows me my POMs report for the last 6 months. And again, to answer your question, Reg, we have the various attendance statistics, present, absent, late, medical substitute. And then we also have RGI, RGO. So RG is referrals given, RR is referrals received. The inside and outside, inside is when 2 members of the chapter did business with one another. So again, if I used Christy Armstrong, she's the accountant in my chapter. If I used her as my personal accountant, that would be an internal referral. Now, if one of the businesses I do business with, they said that they were looking for a new accountant and I introduced that person to Christy Armstrong, that would be an outside referral. So that's the difference between an inside and an outside referral. And of course, visitors, one-to-ones, thank you for closed business. And in the UK, you would have a T here for testimonials. So does that answer your question, Reg? All right, excellent. So again, fairly straightforward report. You can scroll down. You can look at the totals at the bottom. Now, one of the things I like about the reports in BNI Connect is I tend to like to do a lot of more data manipulation than is available here. So I find that with a lot of reports, I like to export them. And you can export without headers or export. Now, the difference between this is these are the headers up here. So all this information at the top that tells you when you ran the report and who ran the report and what the dates were and things like that, that's the headers. So if you want to export with all this information, choose export. If you want to export without all this information and just have the columns, then you choose export without headers. I can then open up the report, and enable editing. And now when I'm here, this allows me to do all sorts of things with this report. I can resize it. I can make it print differently. I can highlight it with colors. By the way, here's just a little Excel trick. My favorite button in Excel is this button right here that says Format as Table. I can choose a quick color scheme. And the nice thing about that is now I can sort by all of these different headers. So if I want to find out, for example, who, let's say, gave the most outside referrals, I can sort this largest to smallest, and here we have Vin Rinaldi that gave 34 referrals during that period. So this is really helpful from a data mining perspective, and I can quickly go through and resort and sort and highlight and do all sorts of things in order to make the information very useful. For people that are dealing with, Gil has a question, says, do we know when one-to-ones will be counted in traffic light scoring? That I do not know. That's something that you definitely need to talk with probably your national director about, because they produce the traffic lights. Probably Tim Cook or Charlie Lawson you would want to ask. Simon has a question as well. I'm not sure whether a close family member referral is external or internal. Where do we draw the line? Simon, I would hesitate to answer that question officially. I would definitely check with your executive director, your director consultant on that one. I can tell you how we do it here in our region. If it's anybody other than yourself, then it's an outside referral. I find that the way it was explained to me was, even if it's my wife, I still need her permission before I refer her to somebody else. So think of even a massage or something like that. It's a different relationship than it would be referring myself. And it's not necessarily a closed deal as soon as somebody else is making the decision. Does that make sense? Again, that's how I do it. That's how we do it in our region. Please, please, please talk with your executive director before deciding that. Haiti says, yes, can you get this webinar in the future? By the way, we are pretty much at 45 minutes now, which is where I wanted to make sure we wrapped up as far as, in case anybody needed to leave. Again, I remind you, I will stay on this webinar all day if people have questions, so don't feel like you have to leave, but if you do have to leave, I'd like to just answer this. Yes, it will be made available. As soon as the webinar is over, I'm going to take the recording, and I'm going to upload it to our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. There are a ton of videos up here. So we have educational moments, short 3 to 5 minute videos on various topics. And then we also have, for example, the September webinar series. And you can go through any of these webinars. Included in these webinars is, I did a copy of this presentation, very similar, a couple of weeks ago, or actually last week. BNI Connect Leadership Team Tools and Reports. So you can get it up here on the YouTube channel. I'll put this copy up there as well as soon as I can. You can also, anywhere in BNI Connect where you see a question mark. So let's say you'd like more information about the Summary POMS report. If you click on that question mark, this will bring you to the support site that has help about that particular article. Now, if you click on the big question mark in the upper right-hand corner, that will take you to our main support site. Here we have our listing of all the upcoming webinars. You can see I put recorded links to all of these. Anything that you can do as a member, you should find under the chapter training and documentation, including all the recorded webinars here, sorted out by month for you. So if I clicked on the September webinars, here's the Leadership Team Tools and Reports webinar that was done a couple of days ago. You'd be able to review it there. So does that help, Haiti? And if they'd like a live version of this, again, I'll be doing another one of these next week, Wednesday, October 8th at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, which is pretty late for you guys, 8 p.m. BST. All right. So for those of you that can hang out for a little while, let me just show you a couple more of my favorite reports in the system. I'm not going to go through all of them. Feel free to go through and click on the reports. Most of them are fairly self-explanatory, although you can click on this question mark and get more information about them. But a couple of other ones. Membership dues report. This one is going to be important for all of you that are dealing with dues in any way, for example, processing renewals, for doing membership reviews. If you're on the membership committee and you need to review a membership, usually 6 months before it's due, or when they're upcoming for renewal, simply click Go on this report, and this will show you all of the people upcoming for renewal. Now, Haiti had also asked before, you'll notice that there's some people, this will be sorted by default by the upcoming renewals. You can see here that the people that are in the top 3 leadership positions, their dues are suspended while they are serving in that position. So what this means, term plus 17, term plus 4, term plus 14, what that means is when they took the position, they had 4 months left in their membership, for example. I had 17 months left in my membership when I became the president. That means that because my dues are paused when I come out of being president, then I will still have 17 months and my time will start to accrue again. So does that answer your question, Haiti? All right, but this also shows me, you can see the people that are due in the next 60 days. They are highlighted in bold. So I can see the people that are up for renewal November 1st, and then going further down the line. And again, being on the membership committee, you may want to be doing 6-month reviews, which means I'm looking at people that are due in in April, and making sure that we're reviewing their memberships to help them out in case they're struggling. Other reports, the VP report and the cumulative VP, I think it may be called the 6-month VP report. This will give you a 1-month snapshot of any of your POMs. So it'll give you a week-by-week comparison along with totals for your chapter. And the cumulative one will do the same thing, but up to 6 months at a time. So let's say I wanted to look March through September. This would give me a 6-month, month-by-month POMS summary for the detail-oriented among us. For those of you that are also, especially the membership coordinators, there's a couple that are very helpful for tracking people's attendance. One of these is the POMS attendance report. So as you know, if you have 1 absence, 2 absences, 3 absences, 4 absences, we do need to send control letters, and that's during the 6-month period. So if I wanted to check the status, this will give me my chapter list, as well as kind of a calendar map of everybody's absences during that period of time. What I like about this is that it does show the absences in a highlighted color here, but it allows me also from a membership committee, from a membership coordinator standpoint, to also look at trends. If I see somebody start to be absent for multiple weeks in a row, or I start to see people showing up late and late and late for long periods of time, then these are some red flags that allow you to look at that information. Now, before, there was a question about visitors. If I want to take a look and see who's registered for my upcoming meetings, I can do that through the visitor registration report. So by default, it's going to show me this week's registered visitors. And we don't have any for this week for our chapter. Let me see if I can expand that a little bit so you get some data on here. Here is our list of registered visitors. What's great about this is in here I can see who invited them. I also have all of their contact information if I wanted to follow up with them. All right, so let me I want to show you guys one more thing before I just open it up to questions. Once you find all of your favorite reports and your favorite things to do, on the home screen, you'll notice that there is the My Network, which is kind of all the social media things. This is also where the documents are stored that might be shared in your region. You'll also notice a chapter shortcut menu. Now, this is your way to make your life a little easier for all of your most common functions that you'll be doing in BNI Connect. So, for example, I have in my list here a whole bunch of different functions, but let's say that I'm going to be the membership coordinator for this coming term. The things that I'm going to be doing most often are probably entering the PALMS report, viewing the PALMS report, and probably running summary PALMS reports, and maybe the membership dues reports. So I can customize this list to put my most common functions right at my fingertips. I click Configure. Now, if there's something over here in this list that I don't want, I can click the X next to it. Let's say I'm going to get rid of a bunch of stuff from there. Now, let's say that I'm going to be entering PALMS. I already have that in my list. I'm going to move it to the top of my list here. I'm also going to be viewing the PALMS. Probably be running a summary PALMS report. So let me put a check in this box, which will bring it over to the left. Now I'm going to move that to the top of the list up here. And I probably want to have the VP report as well. And I want that to the top of my list up here. And I'm going to move email my chapter to the top of the list. And get rid of add a visitor. Once I do this and click submit, when I go back to the home screen here, you'll see that now all of my favorite functions are right at my fingertips. So now if I want to enter a PALMS report, I don't need to go to Operations, Chapter, Meeting Management, enter PALMS. I can just go from My BNI Business, which is my home screen, go to the chapter functions and click Enter PALMS, and it will take me right into the PALMS management screen. All right. So what I'd like to do now is to open this up to questions. What questions do you have on anything we covered today or anything else in BNI Connect? And I would be happy to answer those questions. All right. I don't see any questions coming in. So again, just a reminder, this is being recorded. As soon as I can, I will get this uploaded to YouTube. I will send out the link, and then you guys will all have it. You'll be able to find it again at youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. You'll see them all up here and also on the support site. Again, click the question mark in the upper right-hand corner. That will take you over to our support site. By the way, a good referral for me is if you find these webinars helpful, please help me promote them to your other chapter members. We do an entire series of webinars For example, the next couple of webinars, we have chapter goals if you're interested in that. That one will be at 5 p.m. GMT this coming Monday. And then we touch on everything from how to fill out your profile to online slips to the connections, the social media things, to the chapter websites, to the whole visitor process. So please do, a good referral for me is to invite somebody to one of these webinars. Finally, I would love it if you gave us a like. We do have a Facebook channel as well, facebook.com/BNI Connect Global. We do webinar announcements and tips and tricks and all sorts of things up here on our Facebook. So please do give us a like. I'd love it if you gave us a like. All right. A couple of questions did pop in. Let's see. Darren says, let's say a member's spouse is sick overnight and they can't make it to the following morning. They will be absent, but it's down to yourself to either put them down as absent or sick. Let's see, a member's... well, there's really no sick in BNI. There's medical leave, which usually is an extended absence. So, I mean, absent is absent, whether you're sick, whether you get in a car accident, whether you just had a client appointment and you can't make a meeting, that's an absent. Medical is, let's say that I need to go in for surgery and I'm going to be out for 3 or 4 weeks. With medical leave, your time still ticks, so your membership still ticks, but we're protecting your seat for that extended absence. Usually, again, 2, 3, 4 weeks. I believe it's up to 8 weeks. So it's not really, there's no such thing as really a 1-week medical leave. At least that's the way I've always been taught. Again, check with your executive director or director consultant on that one, but that's my understanding of medical leave. Does that make sense, Darren? And Gil says, thanks. Definitely promote this to my members for this type of training. And thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. All right, I think that was the last question. So again, thank you guys all for being here, and I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Happy connecting, everyone.